My name is Estelle Harrington, 57 years old, standing in my kitchen when my phone buzzed with a message that shattered my world. My son Jacob texted, "Don't come to the family reunion, we're cutting ties." My fingers trembled as I simply replied, "Understood." But inside, my heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. After everything we'd been through, how could such a devastating misunderstanding tear us apart? Before I tell you about the one crucial call that changed everything, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you believe a mother's love can overcome even the most painful challenges. I've lived in the same two-story colonial house in Fairfield, Connecticut for the past 30 years. The blue shutters need repainting and the garden isn't what it used to be, but it's home. I've been a widow for 12 years now since my husband Richard passed away from pancreatic cancer. I still work as an accounting manager at the same firm where I started as a bookkeeper when Jacob was in elementary school. Jacob is my only child, my pride and joy. He's 33 now, tall and handsome with his father's strong jaw and my hazel eyes. He lives in San Francisco where he works as a product manager for a tech company. The distance between Connecticut and California has always been challenging, but we made it work for many years. I raised Jacob mostly on my own after Richard died when Jacob was 21 and in his junior year of college. Those were difficult times, but somehow we grew even closer through our grief. I remember how Jacob would call me every Sunday without fail, telling me about his classes, his internships, and later his first job. Some of my fondest memories are from when Jacob was young. I taught him how to cook his father's favorite lasagna recipe, cheering at his Little League games, even though he spent most of his time on the bench and reading Harry Potter books together, doing all the different voices for characters until he would collapse in giggles. Those precious moments sustained me through the lonely years after he moved away. Things began to change when Jacob moved to California after college. He was excited about his new job, the vibrant city, and the opportunities ahead. I was happy for him truly, even though I missed him terribly. We still talked regularly, and I visited twice a year. He would come home for Christmas, and we maintained our bond despite the distance. Then, Jacob met Amanda at a company retreat 4 years ago. She was beautiful, ambitious, and worked in marketing at the same company. Jacob was immediately smitten. I was thrilled when he brought her home to meet me during Thanksgiving that year. Amanda was polite and charming, complimenting my home and asking about family recipes. I tried my best to welcome her, sharing stories about Jacob's childhood without embarrassing him too much. After they got married 3 years ago, I noticed our calls becoming less frequent. Jacob would often say he was busy with work or that Amanda had planned something. I understood they needed to build their life together, so I tried not to take it personally. I sent care packages with homemade cookies, called on birthdays and anniversaries, but was careful not to intrude too much. There was always a subtle tension with Amanda that I couldn't quite put my finger on. When they visited, she would sometimes make comments about how different things were in California, implying that my way of life was somehow outdated. I always tried to be understanding and respectful of their relationship. I never criticized her or tried to come between them, knowing how important boundaries are with adult children. I made a conscious effort to support their marriage. When Jacob mentioned they were having trouble finding an apartment they could afford, I offered to help with the down payment on a condo. When Amanda got promoted, I sent flowers and a handwritten congratulation card. I wanted them to know I was there for them as a family without overstepping. As the years passed, I adjusted to seeing Jacob less frequently. We went from weekly phone calls to monthly, and his annual Christmas visits became every other year. It hurt, but I told myself this was normal. Children grow up, move away, and start families of their own. I focused on my work, my garden, and my local book club, building a life that wasn't completely centered around being Jacob's mother. Still, Jacob was never far from my thoughts. I kept his childhood artwork displayed in my home office, updated the family photos in the living room with pictures they sent, and always prepared his favorite meals when he did visit. I believed that no matter the distance, our bond would remain unbreakable. I never imagined that a single text message could threaten to sever it completely. The first real sign that something was seriously wrong came 2 years ago when Lily, my granddaughter, was born. I was overjoyed at becoming a grandmother and immediately booked a flight to San Francisco. Jacob sounded happy when we spoke on the phone, telling me how perfect she was with her tiny fingers and button nose. I packed my suitcase with gifts, not just for the baby, but for Jacob and Amanda too. I wanted to be helpful, not intrusive. When I arrived at their modern condo in the Pacific Heights neighborhood, Jacob greeted me with a warm hug, but Amanda was noticeably cooler. She allowed me to hold Lily, but hovered anxiously nearby. I tried to be understanding, remembering how protective I felt when Jacob was a newborn. The tension came to a head on the third day of my visit. Amanda was struggling to get Lily to latch properly for breastfeeding, and I could see the exhaustion and frustration in her eyes. Drawing from my own experience, I gently suggested, sometimes a different position helps. When Jacob was fussy, the football hold worked wonders. Amanda's face instantly hardened. "We're following the lactation consultant's specific instructions," she said sharply. "Everyone has an opinion, but modern approaches are based on actual research, not outdated practices." I immediately apologized, explaining that I only wanted to help, but the damage was done. Later that evening, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen. Jacob's voice was hushed, but defensive as he said, "She was just trying to help Amanda. She raised me successfully, you know." Amanda's response was clear and cutting. "Your mom thinks she knows better than professionals. She's undermining me as a mother. I can't deal with her criticism right now." The next morning, Jacob awkwardly suggested that perhaps I should shorten my stay since they were still adjusting to the new routine. Heartbroken but not wanting to cause more stress, I changed my flight and left 2 days early. As Jacob drove me to the airport, he seemed torn and apologetic. "Mom, Amanda's just feeling vulnerable right now. The hormones and lack of sleep are tough. Give her some time," he explained. I assured him I understood and wasn't offended. "Being a new parent is overwhelming. I'm here whenever you need me, but I respect that you two need to find your own way." In the months that followed, I tried to maintain our connection through video calls, but they became increasingly infrequent. Jacob always had a reason, claiming Lily was napping or Amanda was having a difficult day. I sent thoughtful gifts for Lily's milestones, receiving only brief thank you texts in response. For Lily's first birthday, I mailed a beautiful handmade quilt with family photos printed on the squares, a project that had taken me months to complete. Jacob called to thank me, but the conversation felt strained. When I asked about visiting for Lily's birthday party, he hesitated before saying they were keeping it small. Later that week, I saw photos on Facebook of the elaborate birthday celebration with at least 20 guests, including Amanda's entire family. The stinging realization that I wasn't welcome hit hard, but I swallowed my hurt and commented with birthday wishes and heart emojis. During one rare video call, I noticed Lily had grown so much barely recognizing the cheerful toddler babbling on screen. When I mentioned this, Amanda quickly interjected, "Well, if we saw you more often, that wouldn't be an issue, would it?" The passive-aggressive comment hung in the air before Jacob awkwardly changed the subject. I discovered through social media that Jacob, Amanda, and Lily frequently visited Amanda's parents, who lived just an hour away in Monterey. They took vacations with Amanda's siblings, and their families went to holiday gatherings and participated in Sunday dinners. Not once was I invited to join, despite mentioning several times that I would happily fly out for even a weekend visit. The loneliness was sometimes overwhelming. I'd walk past Jacob's old bedroom, now converted to a guest room, and wonder where I had gone wrong. Had I been too involved or not involved enough? Did Amanda truly dislike me, or was I imagining the coldness I spoke to my friends about it, most of whom had adult children and understood the delicate balance of staying connected without overstepping? My friend Dorothy suggested I directly address the issue with Jacob, but I was afraid of making things worse. "He's building his own family now," I told her. "I need to respect that, even if it hurts." Instead, I focused on sending regular cards and small gifts for Lily, always careful to include kind notes to Amanda as well. I never criticized their parenting choices or imposed my opinions. When Jacob did call, I kept the conversations light and positive, asking about their lives without complaints about how infrequently we spoke. Despite my efforts, I sensed the growing distance. What I didn't realize was that this widening gap wasn't the natural progression of a son establishing independence, but something far more deliberate and heartbreaking. It was a Tuesday morning in April when my world collapsed. The cherry trees in my backyard were in full bloom, their delicate pink petals drifting in the spring breeze. I was in my bedroom packing my suitcase for the flight to San Francisco the next day. After months of hints and gentle persistence, Jacob had finally invited me to attend a family reunion at Amanda's parents' vacation home in Napa Valley. I was ecstatic about seeing my granddaughter again and hopefully mending whatever silent rift had formed between us. I had just folded my new navy dress purchased specially for the occasion when my phone chimed with a text message. Seeing Jacob's name, I smiled, expecting last-minute details about my visit. Instead, the words on the screen made my heart stop. "Mom, don't come to the family reunion. We're cutting ties. This is a final decision our family has made." I sat heavily on the edge of my bed, reading and rereading the message, certain I must have misunderstood. My hands trembled so badly I could barely type a response asking what was wrong and if we could talk about it. Minutes passed with no reply. I called Jacob's number, but it went straight to voicemail. I tried again, leaving a confused, tearful message. "Jacob, honey, I don't understand. Please call me back. Whatever the problem is, we can work it out. Please." After an hour of unanswered calls and increasingly desperate messages, I finally sent a single-word reply. "Understood." I wouldn't beg. Whatever dignity I had left needed to be preserved, even as my heart shattered into pieces. That night was the longest of my life. Worse than the night Richard died in some ways, because at least then I'd been able to hold my son as we grieved together. Now Jacob himself was choosing to remove me from his life, from my granddaughter's life, and I didn't even know why. I paced my house until dawn, replaying every interaction with Jacob and Amanda over the past 2 years. Had I said something offensive without realizing it? Had I crossed some boundary? I thought about the gifts I'd sent, the careful, supportive messages, the way I'd deliberately stepped back to give them space. Nothing made sense. Around 3 in the morning, I found myself in Jacob's old room, clutching the teddy bear he couldn't sleep without until he was 8. Hot tears soaked into the worn fur as I questioned everything about my motherhood. Had I been too controlling, too permissive? Had I failed to prepare him properly for adulthood? The questions circled endlessly, offering no answers or comfort. By morning, grief had hardened into something else. A mother doesn't raise a child for 33 years and simply accept being discarded without explanation. I deserved to know what I had done that was so unforgivable. Jacob owed me at least that much. I tried calling one more time after washing my face and making a strong cup of coffee. Again, straight to voicemail. I sent a text, "Jacob, I respect your decision, but I need to understand why. Please give me that closure at least." No response. I canceled my flight, feeling numb as I clicked through the airline website. The suitcase sat open on my bed, mocking me with its contents, so carefully chosen for a reunion that would never happen. The grandmother necklace I had bought to wear when I finally saw Lily again remained in its gift box unworn. At work that day, I moved through my tasks like a ghost. My assistant Lisa noticed my red-rimmed eyes but didn't pry. When I spilled coffee across a stack of reports and burst into tears, she quietly helped clean up the mess and offered to cover my afternoon meetings. I accepted gratefully and drove home early, feeling hollow and disoriented. That evening, I sat on my back porch watching the sunset, a glass of wine untouched beside me. The neighborhood children played in nearby yards, their laughter a painful reminder of what I was losing. Not just my son, but the chance to be part of my granddaughter's childhood. Lily would grow up without knowing me, perhaps even being told I was somehow terrible or unloving. The injustice of it burned alongside the grief. I thought about calling Jacob's father's parents my former in-laws, but they had moved to Florida years ago and weren't in regular contact with Jacob either. I considered reaching out to some of his old friends from high school, but that felt desperate and inappropriate. As I finally dragged myself to bed that night, exhaustion overtaking the pain, momentarily, one thought crystallized through the fog of confusion and hurt: I would not accept being cut off without understanding why. I had been a devoted mother. I deserved the truth. And tomorrow, I would start looking for it. After a restless night plagued by vivid nightmares where I chased Jacob through endless corridors but could never reach him, I woke with newfound determination. The initial shock had faded enough for me to think more clearly. I wasn't going to harass Jacob with more calls or messages, but I wasn't going to disappear quietly either. I sat at my kitchen table with a fresh cup of coffee, considering my options. Who could help me understand what was happening? Who might have insight into why my son would suddenly cut me out of his life? After careful consideration, I reached for my phone and called my oldest friend, Lisa Goldstein. We'd been roommates in college 40 years ago and had remained close despite living in different states. More importantly, Lisa was a clinical psychologist specializing in family relationships. If anyone could help me make sense of this situation, it would be her. Estelle, it's not our usual Sunday call time. Is everything okay? Lisa's warm voice immediately brought tears to my eyes. No, it's not. I admitted, my voice cracking. Jacob sent me a text yesterday saying they're cutting ties with me. I have no idea why. Over the next hour, I poured out the entire story to Lisa, from the tension with Amanda after Lily's birth to the growing distance and finally the devastating text message. Lisa listened patiently, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly letting me talk through my confusion and pain. This doesn't make sense based on what you've described, Lisa said finally. Either something significant has happened that you're not aware of, or there's manipulation happening behind the scenes. Have you noticed Amanda being controlling in other ways? I hesitated, not wanting to blame my daughter-in-law unfairly. She's particular about how things should be done with Lily, but most new mothers are. Jacob has become more distant since their relationship, but I assumed that was normal when someone starts their own family. It can be, but suddenly cutting off a parent without explanation isn't normal or healthy, Lisa pointed out. In my professional experience, when something like this happens out of the blue, there's often a third party influencing the situation. You think Amanda might be behind this? I asked the possibility, both troubling and somewhat relieving. At least it might mean Jacob hadn't simply stopped loving me. I can't say for certain, but it's worth considering. What you've described sounds like potential isolation tactics. Has Jacob become distant from other people in his life too, or just you? I thought about it. He doesn't mention his old friends much anymore, and he was close to his stepsister Rachel, my ex-husband's daughter, but I don't think they talk often now either. That's another red flag, Lisa said. Listen, Estelle, I don't think you should confront Jacob or Amanda directly right now. That could backfire if she is manipulating him. Instead, try gathering more information from people who might have insight into what's happening in their household, like who I barely know their friends in California. What about Rachel? Is she someone you've stayed in touch with? Would she be willing to help you understand what might be going on? Rachel, of course. Despite being my former stepdaughter from a brief second marriage after Richard died, Rachel and I had maintained a warm relationship. She was 10 years older than Jacob, but they had bonded quickly and stayed close through college. Rachel now lived in Boston with her wife and their son, and while we didn't talk often, she always sent thoughtful Christmas cards and remembered my birthday. That's actually a great idea, I told Lisa. Rachel might know something. She and Jacob were quite close at one point. Perfect. Call her, but be careful how you frame it. Don't accuse Amanda of anything. Just explain what happened and ask if she has any insight. After thanking Lisa for her advice and promising to update her, I immediately searched for Rachel's number in my contacts. My heart pounded as I pressed call, hoping she would pick up. Estelle, what a nice surprise. Rachel's cheerful voice answered on the third ring. Rachel, dear, it's so good to hear your voice. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I tried to keep my tone light despite my anxiety. Not at all. I'm just finishing up some work emails. Is everything okay? You don't usually call midweek. Taking a deep breath, I explained the situation as calmly as I could. Rachel's shocked gasp when I mentioned the text message was both validating and concerning. That's completely ridiculous, she said firmly. You're the most supportive mother I know. You've never been anything but kind to both of them. So you haven't heard anything from Jacob about problems between us? I asked hopefully. Rachel's hesitation spoke volumes. Well, I haven't spoken to Jacob in about 6 months, which is unusual for us. The last few times I tried to reach out, he seemed evasive. Said they were really busy with Lily and work. Did he ever mention any specific issues with me? Another pause. Not directly, but Estelle, there's something you should know. I spoke with my cousin Tyler last month, who works at the same company as Amanda. He attended a dinner party at their house and mentioned something strange to me afterward. My stomach tightened. What was it? Apparently, Amanda was telling everyone at the party that you've been incredibly difficult, constantly criticizing her parenting and trying to undermine her relationship with Jacob. She even claimed you once suggested she wasn't fit to be Lily's mother. I gasped, genuinely shocked. That's absolutely not true. I've gone out of my way to respect their parenting choices, even when I might have done things differently. I know, Rachel said gently. That's why it seems so odd to me. Tyler said he was surprised because it didn't match what Jacob had told him about you in the past. But the worst part, she trailed off. Please, Rachel, I need to know everything. Amanda told people you tried to feed Lily something she was severely allergic to even after being warned about the allergy. She implied it was deliberate. The accusation was so outrageous I actually laughed in disbelief. What? That's insane. Lily doesn't have any food allergies that I know of, and I've never given her anything without their permission anyway. I've barely spent time with her. That's what I thought, Rachel confirmed. It sounded completely fabricated to me, but Tyler said Jacob was nodding along with the story. My mind raced trying to process this information. Was Jacob actually believing these lies about me, or was he just going along with Amanda to keep the peace? Rachel, why would she make up such horrible things about me? I don't know for sure, but from what Tyler described, it sounds like classic isolation behavior. Some people need to control their partner completely, and that means cutting off other close relationships, especially with family members who might notice what's happening. The pieces were starting to fit together in a disturbing pattern. What should I do if Jacob believes these things about me? First, we need more information, Rachel said decisively. Let me reach out to some mutual connections. Amanda has a younger sister, Sarah, right? I think we have a friend in common through work. Let me see what I can find out from that angle. By the end of our call, we had formulated the beginnings of a plan. Rachel would discreetly gather information through her network, while I would compile evidence of our actual interactions contradicting Amanda's false narratives. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a small flame of hope in the darkness that had enveloped me since receiving that text. As I hung up, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Horror at the lies being spread about me, anger at Amanda for her manipulation, concern for Jacob, who was clearly being influenced against me, and determination to uncover the truth. Most importantly, I felt less alone. Whatever came next, I wouldn't be facing it without support. Over the next 2 days, Rachel and I worked on parallel tracks to understand the full picture of what was happening with Jacob and Amanda. Rachel contacted Sarah, Amanda's younger sister, through a mutual acquaintance at her law firm. Meanwhile, I meticulously gathered evidence of my actual relationship with Jacob and Amanda. I created a folder on my computer with screenshots of our text exchanges, emails, and social media interactions. I found pictures of the few times I had visited them, showing happy moments that contradicted Amanda's narrative. I even had the handwritten thank you note Amanda had sent for the baby shower gifts, expressing how grateful she was for my thoughtfulness and generosity. The breakthrough came when Rachel called me the following evening, her voice tight with controlled anger. I spoke with Sarah, she said without preamble. And Estelle, it's worse than we thought. Sarah had been surprisingly forthcoming, apparently harboring her own concerns about her sister's behavior. According to Sarah, Amanda had a history of creating conflict between her partners and their families. Her previous boyfriend had eventually cut ties with his parents after Amanda convinced him they were trying to control their relationship. Sarah said Amanda has been telling Jacob for years that you constantly criticize her behind her back, Rachel explained. She's apparently shown him evidence text messages where you supposedly said terrible things about her. But I never sent any such messages, I protested. Of course not. Sarah thinks Amanda either fabricated them completely or edited real messages to change their meaning. She's done similar things before. The revelation that Amanda had systematically manipulated my son against me was both infuriating and heartbreaking. I thought of all the times Jacob had seemed distant on our calls, how he'd gradually stopped sharing details of their lives with me. He wasn't pulling away naturally. He was being turned against me through calculated lies. There's more, Rachel continued. Sarah said Amanda has isolated Jacob from several of his old friends too, especially anyone who knew you well. She's convinced him that they were negative influences or that they disrespected her in some way. I sat heavily on my couch trying to process everything. Why would Jacob believe all this? He knows me better than anyone. Manipulation like this happens gradually, Rachel explained gently. From what Sarah described, Amanda started with small comments, planting seeds of doubt about your intentions. Then, she'd selectively share or distort information to support her narrative. Over time, even the most loving relationship can be poisoned this way. So what do I do now? Jacob won't even speak to me. I think we need to reach him directly with evidence that contradicts what he's been told. Sarah mentioned that Amanda monitors his phone, but she doesn't have access to his work email. If we send something there, he might see it before she can intercept. We decided that I would compose a heartfelt email to Jacob's work address, attaching evidence that disproved Amanda's claims without directly accusing her of manipulation. Rachel suggested I focus on expressing my love and confusion rather than anger to avoid pushing Jacob further away. That night, I sat at my computer for hours, carefully crafting the most important message I'd ever written. I didn't sleep pouring my heart onto the screen while being mindful not to sound accusatory or defensive. I began by telling Jacob how much I loved him, and Lily expressing my confusion and hurt over the sudden cutoff. I explained that I had always tried to be respectful of their boundaries and asked what I might have done to cause such pain. Then, without directly mentioning Amanda's lies, I included evidence of our positive interactions over the years. I attached photos of us together at Lily's birth, the supportive messages I'd sent during challenging times, screenshots of my conversations with Amanda where I had been nothing but kind and encouraging. I included the handmade gifts I'd created for Lily with such care, the offers of help I'd made without imposing. Whatever you've been told about my feelings or actions. I wrote, please know that I have only ever wanted your happiness. I have respected your marriage and your role as parents. I've never spoken ill of Amanda to anyone. If there have been misunderstandings or hurt feelings, I want nothing more than to address them directly and heal our relationship. I concluded by assuring him that I would respect his wishes if he truly wanted no contact, but that I deserved to understand why after 33 years of loving him with my whole heart. I asked only for a conversation, a chance to clear the air before making such a final decision. With a silent prayer, I pressed send at 5:47 a.m., then collapsed into an exhausted sleep, emotionally drained, but with the smallest seed of hope planted in my heart. The next day passed in agonizing slowness. I checked my phone constantly, jumping at every notification only to be disappointed. By evening, I had heard nothing from Jacob, and my fragile hope began to fade. Perhaps Amanda had somehow intercepted the email. Perhaps Jacob had seen it but didn't care. Perhaps the lies had taken too deep a root to be dislodged by truth. I called Rachel to update her on the situation, trying to keep the despair from my voice. Give it time, she encouraged me. He might need to process everything you sent. This isn't something he can respond to quickly, especially if it contradicts what he's been led to believe. I tried to take comfort in her words as I prepared for bed, setting my phone on the nightstand with the volume turned up just in case. As I drifted into an uneasy sleep, I couldn't have imagined how dramatically things would change by morning. I woke with a start at 6:13 a.m., momentarily disoriented by the insistent buzzing of my phone. Reaching for it groggily, my heart leaped when I saw Jacob's name on the screen. Not just one notification, but dozens cascading down in an overwhelming stream. 89 missed calls, 37 text messages, 13 voicemails, all from Jacob starting around midnight and continuing until just minutes ago. My hands trembled as I opened the most recent text. Mom, please pick up. I need to talk to you right now. I've made a terrible mistake. I immediately called him back, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely hear the ringtone. He answered on the first ring. Mom. His voice was hoarse, as if he'd been crying for hours. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. Jacob. I breathed, tears already flowing freely down my cheeks. What's happening, sweetheart? Can we video call? I need to see your face. Moments later, my son's face appeared on the screen, his eyes red-rimmed and swollen hair disheveled. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. The sight of him so distraught tore at my heart, despite everything that had happened. I saw your email, he began, his voice breaking. I didn't know. I had no idea. Mom, the things Amanda told me about you, they weren't true, were they? No, honey, they weren't, I said gently. I've never done or said any of those things. Jacob covered his face with his freehand shoulders, shaking with silent sobs. When he looked up again, the raw pain in his expression nearly undid me. I believed her, For years, I believed these awful things about my own mother. How could I have been so blind? Over the next hour, Jacob revealed the full extent of Amanda's deception. It had started small with occasional comments about how I seemed judgmental of their lifestyle or parenting choices. Then came the evidence, text messages and emails she claimed I had sent to her filled with criticism and even threats. She told Jacob I had called her unfit as a mother, that I had tried to convince him to leave her, that I had deliberately exposed Lily to foods she was supposedly allergic to. I should have questioned it more, Jacob admitted, wiping his eyes. But she was so convincing. She had screenshots conversations with her friends who claimed to have heard me say terrible things about her. And when I did doubt, she would get so upset saying I was choosing you over our family that I wasn't protecting her and Lily. How did you discover the truth? I asked, still trying to process everything. Jacob explained that he'd received my email at work yesterday afternoon but hadn't opened it immediately, assuming it would be a plea for reconciliation without addressing the issues Amanda had convinced him were real. He had stayed late at the office, and around 10 p.m., feeling emotionally drained and conflicted, he finally read it. The evidence you included, Mom. It contradicted everything Amanda had told me. I started checking our old messages myself, comparing them to the screenshots she'd shown me. Things didn't add up. When he confronted Amanda after returning home, she initially denied everything, then accused him of betraying her by communicating with me. As the argument escalated, she finally admitted to fabricating or altering evidence, claiming she'd done it because she felt threatened by our close relationship. She said she was afraid you'd always come first with me, that you had too much influence. Jacob said, his voice hollow with disbelief. She admitted to isolating me from Rachel, too, and some of my old friends. She's been controlling everything for years, and I just let it happen. Where is Amanda now? I asked, concerned about the volatility of the situation. She left with Lily, went to her parents' house after I confronted her. I've been up all night going through our messages, realizing how many lies I've been told. Not just about you, but about everything. He looked utterly devastated. Mom, I cut you out of my life, out of Lily's life, based on nothing but lies. How can you ever forgive me? Oh, Jacob, I said softly. You're my son. I love you unconditionally. Always have, always will. You were manipulated by someone you trusted. That's not your fault. I want you to come to California, he said suddenly. As soon as possible. I want you to see Lily to start making up for lost time. I've missed you so much more than I even realized. My heart soared at the invitation, but caution tempered my response. What about Amanda? I don't want to come between you and your wife, Jacob. Whatever's happened, she's still Lily's mother. Jacob sighed heavily. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with our marriage. This isn't something I can just forgive and forget. But you're right about Lily. We'll need to figure this out carefully. We talked for another hour, making plans for my visit the following week. Jacob suggested we all attend family therapy together, including Amanda if she was willing. I agreed it would be the healthiest approach for everyone, especially Lily. As we prepared to end the call, Jacob looked at me with the same earnest expression he'd had as a little boy, asking for forgiveness after breaking a vase. Mom, I'm going to make this right. I promise you. I know you will, I assured him. We'll figure it out together, one step at a time. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen, watching the sunrise, feeling as though I was emerging from a long, dark tunnel. The pain wasn't gone, nor was the work of rebuilding our relationship finished. But the truth had finally come to light, and with it, the chance to heal what had been so deliberately broken. I sent a quick text to Rachel, updating her on the extraordinary developments. Then, with a lighter heart than I'd had in years, I began making plans for my trip to California to reclaim my place in my son and granddaughter's lives. 3 months have passed since that life-changing morning when my phone exploded with Jacob's desperate attempts to reach me. I'm sitting on the balcony of my rental apartment in San Francisco, watching the fog roll in over the Golden Gate Bridge while Lily naps inside. So much has changed in such a short time, and the journey hasn't been easy for any of us, but we're healing step by careful step. I flew to California the day after Jacob's revelation, my heart simultaneously lighter with relief and heavy with apprehension. Jacob met me at the airport alone, enveloping me in a hug so tight it nearly crushed my ribs. We both cried unashamedly in the middle of the arrivals hall, oblivious to the curious glances of passing travelers. Meeting Lily again was even more emotional. At 2 years old, she was naturally wary of me at first, this grandmother who was essentially a stranger. Jacob had shown her pictures of me and talked about me positively in the days before my arrival, but nothing could instantly create the bond that should have developed naturally over time. Gamma, she said hesitantly, when Jacob introduced us in his living room, testing out the words she'd been taught. Yes, sweetheart, I'm your grandma, I replied, kneeling to her level but not approaching too quickly. I've been waiting so long to see you. To my surprise and joy, she toddled forward after a moment's consideration and placed a small, sticky hand on my cheek, examining my face with solemn curiosity. Pretty, she declared, and just like that, my heart was hers completely. The situation with Amanda was far more complicated. She had returned to the condo with Lily the day before my arrival after Jacob made it clear he wouldn't allow her to keep their daughter away from him. The atmosphere was tense and awkward, to put it mildly. Amanda avoided making eye contact with me, speaking only when absolutely necessary in clipped, formal tones. Jacob had arranged for us all to meet with a family therapist, Dr. Melinda Torres, the day after I arrived. In that first session, seated stiffly in a circle in Dr. Torres's warmly lit office, Amanda finally spoke directly to me. I know what I did was wrong, she said, eyes fixed on her tightly clasped hands. I created a narrative that wasn't real because I was insecure and afraid. Afraid of what? Dr. Torres gently prompted. Amanda's eyes flicked up to meet mine briefly before darting away again. Afraid of not being enough. Jacob always spoke about you with such admiration, how strong you were raising him alone after his father died, how you always knew exactly what to say or do. I felt like I could never measure up. So you decided to eliminate the competition, Jacob said, an edge to his voice that I'd rarely heard before. It wasn't that calculated, not at first, Amanda insisted. It started with small exaggerations, then grew into something I couldn't control. Every time Jacob questioned something, I had to create more elaborate stories to maintain the earlier ones. It spiraled. I listened, trying to balance compassion with the very real hurt her actions had caused. I never saw us as in competition, Amanda, I said finally. From the moment Jacob introduced us all, I wanted was to support your family. I never tried to undermine you or judge your parenting. I know that now, she admitted quietly. But by the time I realized how far things had gone, it seemed impossible to undo without losing everything. That first session established a foundation for the difficult work ahead. Dr. Torres helped us set clear boundaries and communication guidelines. Jacob and Amanda began attending couples therapy in addition to our family sessions. I made it clear that while I wanted a relationship with my son and granddaughter, I had no desire to destroy their marriage or family unit. Over the following weeks, we established a new normal. I rented a small apartment nearby, giving them space while remaining close enough to be present in Lily's life. Jacob and I spent time rebuilding our bond, often taking Lily to the park or zoo, creating new memories to fill the void of the lost years. Amanda and I progressed from icy politeness to cautious conversation and eventually to moments of genuine connection. One afternoon, while Jacob was at work, she asked me to show her how to make the chocolate chip cookies he had loved as a child. As we measured and mixed ingredients with Lily, helping from her high chair, Amanda unexpectedly opened up. I always wanted a close relationship with my mother-in-law, she confessed, flour dusting her dark hair. My own mother is so critical, nothing I do is ever good enough. I think I projected those fears onto you, seeing criticism where there was none. We all carry our past into our relationships, I replied, choosing my words carefully. I made mistakes too, Amanda. I should have recognized the signs that something was wrong and addressed them directly instead of just stepping back. It was a turning point, though not a magical cure. Trust rebuilds slowly like a garden recovering after a harsh winter, tender shoots requiring careful tending before they flourish again. Jacob and Amanda's marriage remains a work in progress. There have been difficult days when old patterns resurface, when Jacob's anger over the deception flares anew, or Amanda's insecurities trigger defensive reactions. But they're both committed to the process for Lily's sake, if nothing else. As for me, I've discovered an unexpected new chapter in my life. I've decided to spend 3 months each year in California, maintaining my home in Connecticut, but creating space for this vital West Coast connection. I've made friends in Jacob's neighborhood, joined a local book club, and even started volunteering at the community garden around the corner. Last month, we had a proper family reunion, one where I was wholeheartedly welcomed. Amanda's parents were understandably wary at first, having heard years of distorted stories about me. But seeing us interact naturally, watching the genuine affection between Lily and me, they've begun to form their own opinions rather than relying on secondhand accounts. Rachel flew out to join us for the weekend, bringing her wife and son. Seeing her and Jacob reconnect, reminiscing about childhood adventures and sharing recent news, brought tears to my eyes. Another relationship healing, another connection restored. Yesterday, Amanda asked if I would watch Lily overnight so she and Jacob could have their first real date night in years. The request, so normal and yet so significant, felt like a precious gift of trust. Lily and I made pizza together, read stories, and fell asleep on the couch watching Frozen. When I carried her to bed, she wrapped her little arms around my neck and whispered, "Love you, Gamma, words I once feared I'd never hear." This journey has taught me profound lessons about communication, forgiveness, and resilience. I've learned that truth eventually finds its way to the surface, that love can survive even the most deliberate attempts to destroy it. I've discovered that setting boundaries doesn't diminish relationships, but strengthens them, creating safe spaces where trust can rebuild. Most importantly, I've realized that healing isn't about erasing what happened, but about growing something new and beautiful from the broken pieces. Our family will never be the same as it might have been without Amanda's deception, but in some ways, we're stronger for having confronted these difficult truths together. In every family, honest communication and unconditional love are the keys to overcoming any obstacle. Sometimes, one crucial conversation with the right person can change everything. I thought I had lost my son forever, but now I understand that love never truly disappears. It simply waits to be rediscovered. Are you willing to seek the truth even when it might be painful initially to find your way back to the people you love? I hope my story gives you courage to make that vital call, send that important message, or have that difficult conversation that could change everything. Please share in the comments a time when communication helped heal a relationship in your life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that reconciliation is possible even after the deepest hurts. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that it's never too late for healing to begin.